Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's so good to have you here. Please remember to like and subscribe for more maths videos. In this video today, we are going to be covering how to multiply and divide fractions. Make sure that you've checked out all the previous videos on what to do with fractions. Now, when we get to dividing fractions, we're going to do dividing fractions the same way as multiplying fractions, but only once we've done this step. And this step is what I like to call KSF. Keep, switch, flip. Keep the fraction in front of the division sign the same. Switch the division sign to a multiplication sign. Flip the fraction after the division sign. Keep, switch, flip. If we look at 1 over 3 divided by 2 over 5, so we have our divide sign. So that means that we are going to keep, switch, flip. So keep the fraction before the division sign the same, 1 over 3. Switch the division sign to a multiplication sign. So I'm going to switch the division to a multiplication sign, and then I'm going to flip the fraction after the division sign. So I'm going to flip this fraction around. So instead of it being 2 over 5, I'm going to have it as 5 over 2. And now I'm going to do it the same way as the normal multiplication. So I am now going to do numerator times numerator. So 1 times 5 is 5 over denominator times denominator. 3 times 2 is 6. All right, looking at the next example, I have 3 over 7 divided by 1 over 4. So I'm going to keep the fraction before the division sign the same. So I'm going to keep it as 3 over 7. I'm now going to switch the division sign to a multiplication sign. So I'm switching the division to multiplication. And then I'm going to flip the fraction after the division sign around. So it was 1 over 4. So now I'm going to make it 4 over 1. Now I'm going to follow my same multiplication rule. So I'm first going to see if I can cross simplify or cross cancel. And I can't. So now I'm going to multiply top with top, bottom with bottom. 3 times 4 is 12 over 7 times 1, which is 7. All right, if we look at the next example, we have 9 over 20 divided by 10 over 11. So I'm going to keep, switch, flip. I'm going to keep the first fraction the same. So 9 over 20 stays the same. I'm going to switch the division sign to a multiplication sign. So that changes to multiplication. And then I'm going to flip the fraction after the division sign around, so it's going to become, instead of 10 over 11, it'll become 11 over 10. I'm going to do the same multiplication, so I'm going to check if I can cancel anything, and in this case I can't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply top with top, numerator with numerator, bottom with bottom, denominator with denominator. So 9 times 11 is 99 over 20 times 10, which is 200. All right, looking at the next example, I have 3 over 5 divided by 15 over 11. So I'm going to keep, switch, flip. Keep the first fraction the same, 3 over 5. Switch the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then flip the fraction after the division sign. So instead of 15 over 11, I'm going to have 11 over 15. Now I'm going to do my simplification, so I can see that in the numerator of the one fraction I have a 3, in the denominator I have a 15, which means that I can simplify those first. So I'm going to say 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 15 5 times. So now I'm going to multiply top with top, bottom with bottom. 1 times 11 is 11 over 5 times 5 is 25. All right, if I look at the next example, I have 30 divided by a half, but the 30 is also a whole number, so I'm going to change the 30 into a fraction to be 30 over 1. So what I'm going to do is at first, I'm just going to keep everything exactly the same so that I can just make the 30 into a fraction. So you can see that I'm keeping the division sign because I'm not actually dividing anything. I'm just keeping the 30 the same by changing it into a fraction. So now what I'm going to do is now I'm going to keep switch flip. So keep switch flip means that I keep the first fraction the same. So that's 30 divided by 1, or 30 over 1. I'm going to switch the division sign to a multiplication sign. So I'm changing that, and then I'm going to flip the fraction around. So instead of 1 over 2, I'm going to have 2 over 1. Now I can see that I can't simplify. However, I have denominators of 1, which means that I can drop the denominator of 1 because everything has a denominator of 1, and I can make it invisible. So I'm going to times the numerator with the numerator. 30 times 2, which is 60. Looking at the next example, I have a fifth divided by 360. So I'm going to keep everything the same by just changing the 360 into a fraction. So I'll have a fifth divided by 360 over 1. Now I'm going to keep switch flip. Keep the first fraction the same, 1 over 5. Switch the division sign to a multiplication sign and flip the other fraction. Now, unlike the first example where the denominators were the 1 and I dropped the denominators, in this example the numerators are the 1, so therefore I cannot drop the numerator of 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply numerator with numerator, denominator with denominator. 1 times 1 is 1 over 5 times 360, which is 1,800. Okay, looking at the next example, I can see that I have a mixed fraction. So my first step is to make that mixed fraction an improper fraction. So I'm going to say 2 times 2 is 4, add the 1, which is 5, over the original denominator, which is 2, divided by 7 over 10. So you can see that I haven't done the KSF just yet. All I've done is I've just changed the way it looks, so I'm keeping the sum the same, and only in this next step am I going to keep switch flip. I am going to keep the first fraction the same, so I'm going to keep the 5 over 2 the same. So it's going to be 5 over 2, then I'm going to switch the division sign to a multiplication sign, and I'm going to flip the second fraction. So instead of 7 over 10, I have 10 over 7. Now, when it comes to simplification, I can see that I have a 2 and I have a 10, which can be simplified. So I'm going to say what goes into 2 and into 10? 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 10 5 times. Now I'm going to multiply numerator with numerator, denominator with denominator. So 5 times 5 is 25 over 1 times 7, which is 7. Looking at the last example, I can see that I have a mixed fraction, so I'm going to change that mixed fraction into an improper fraction first. So 1 times 11 is 11 plus 2 is 13 over the original denominator, which is 11, divided by 8 over 9. Now I'm going to keep switch flip. So I'm going to keep the first fraction the same. So the first fraction is 13 over 11, so it stays 13 over 11. I'm going to switch the division sign to a multiplication sign, and I'm going to flip the second fraction. So instead of 8 over 9, it will be 9 over 8. Now I can simply multiply the numerator with the numerator, denominator with denominator. So I'm going to say 13 times 9 is 117 over 11 times 8, which is 88. I do hope that this video has helped you to understand how to multiply and divide fractions. Remember, the more you do, the better you'll be. I do hope to see you soon on my channel. Remember to like and subscribe for more maths videos. See you soon.